Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I'm excited for my conversation today with Mel McSherry. She works with inspired entrepreneurs who are exhausted and overwhelmed by what they think they need to do in order to be successful. She helps them to honor their lives and be the architect of their success through human design in partnership with traditional business development frameworks. She is an international business and life guide. I love that, life guide, speaker, author, and also a podcast host as well. Welcome to the show today, Mel.
Thank you, Felina. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm excited to share your story. You have some twists and turns in your story.
Just a tad.
Yeah, exactly, as we all do. But
right.
We'll start off with Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So you were raised in Arizona, and then you jetted off to Seattle. Why was that?
Yeah. So I jetted off to Seattle to become an actor. I always knew that the traditional path was not for me. And by traditional, I meant go to college. And my parents, bless them, gave us that option of, if we found something that was, was able to provide us some sort of a lifeline, a stability, that they would support it. And I'm very grateful for that because I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. My father, growing up, we survived several very unsuccessful business ventures. And then he founded a company with just him and his secretary at the age of 40. And now it's a multi-million-dollar, very successful company in the behavioral health department in Phoenix. So growing up with that support of, just go for it and make it work has always been really beautiful for me. And I know not everybody has that, as well as doesn't have really that insight into what it means to be an entrepreneurial family and grow up with that. So I definitely walked into this journey with very eyes wide open and knowing what, the work that would be involved in all of this. So with that said, my parents were both music majors. My mom took me to musical theater when I was 6 years old, and I was addicted ever since. So I really wanted that to be my career. So instead of going to a traditional college, I got accepted into a 2-year program at a theater conservatory in Seattle, Washington. And I had never been to Seattle before. I didn't know anybody. My mom and I flew out so I could audition. That same day, we found an apartment. 2 weeks later, I found out I was accepted. And a month and a half later, I moved. And it was a huge awakening for me to be kind of separate, from my family and from everything else, and really gave me that first taste of what it's like to almost a network, right? To get to know people, to get a job and all of that. So I did the program. It was absolutely phenomenal. Everything I wanted and more. And then 3 years after that, did the theater circuits in Seattle, not very successfully, to be fair. And I was just really trying to figure out what my next step was, because even though I loved theater, looking back on it, there was a lot of personal development that I needed to do for myself that I just wasn't doing. And I didn't really know what personal development was at the time. I just knew that this was draining me. I didn't like to hear that I was not good all the time, and I needed to find something different. And that actually ended up turning into a move to Denver. So my family is originally from Denver, and I always wanted to go there and move there permanently at some point. And I thought, well, if this was the time to do it, it's now. So I moved to Denver with the thought of staying there. I decided to move into fitness. I'd always been active in a fitness community. I worked at a martial arts school and competed in martial arts for several years, and was a dancer from age 6 to 18. So I thought, fitness is really cool. I really love being able to support somebody and hearing what they want and showing them how they can achieve what they want by just doing, X, Y, Z, like just really showing them how much power they really have over what they want to create. which, spoiler alert, that's kind of like been a linear theme now of who I am as a guide and as a coach. So I went to personal training school, and during that time, I was still in conversation with a guy that I was dating. He got a job in Chicago working for Major League Baseball, and he asked me to move to Chicago with him. So I ended up being in Denver for a whopping 8 months, just long enough to finish the program. Got my national certification as a personal trainer, moved to Chicago. I tried to work for a corporate gym. That was my one corporate stints, just to make sure I really wasn't meant for it. And definitely found out I wasn't meant for it. And I ended up starting my own personal training company in 2010. And I absolutely loved it because it was my main motivator was to just be able to train who I wanted to train, work the hours that I wanted to work, and really just be my business instead of worrying about, kind of all these outside politics. And so I did that. And then my son was born in 2011. And I was traveling a lot to people's homes and doing in-home trainings. And with my son and my now husband, now present tense ex-husband, but then husband, working for Major League Baseball and is gone, 75%, 80% of the year, it was just too hard to travel. So I ended up actually taking a step to the side. And I always love sharing this part of my journey because I think this gets bypassed a lot when people talk about their journeys of entrepreneurs, that sometimes some of us have to make decisions that aren't necessarily in alignment with what we want to create professionally, but it fills something that allows us to just take that breather, right? So for me, it was taking a step away from my business and doing online medical billing for my father's company, which is as sexy as it sounds. And being a VA for an IT company in Dallas, Texas. And I did really love being a VA, but I made those decisions because financially it made sense. And it just gave me space to really figure out what this is, because for those who have children, that first year, at least especially for me, was extremely difficult. Sprinkle in some undiagnosed postpartum depression, and we had ourselves a little party. So definitely having that space to just take the pressure off of me of trying to build a business and being able just to kind of shut off, a little bit and just do these day-to-day things was really helpful and really gave me the space to figure out, okay, now what do I want? This is the time and energy that I have. This is, what does this look like? And how do I want to bring this to life? And that ended up coming into a form of partnering with a network marketing company or a multi-level marketing company, depending on who you ask, being an online health and fitness coach. And I really loved this experience for several reasons. And the interesting thing is that with network marketing or MLM marketing, the quickest way to make a massive income is you're encouraged to build a team. And at the time I was like, who am I to tell somebody how to build their business? And so I was fully honest with my leader. And I said, look, I don't want to build a team. I just want to be a coach. So I'm just going to hit my numbers. I'm going to make sales goals for myself and, just do that. And she's like, great, this is your business. You do what you need to do. And so that's what I focused on. And I became the top salesperson for our team multiple months in a row. And she finally came up to me about probably 6 months in. She goes, look, you have been doing this really successfully with, a 1-year-old son at home, or maybe he was a little bit older than 1. And you're doing this, by yourself, pretty much with your husband gone all the time. How do you do this? Because you are so consistent and you do this so well. Would you be willing to create just like a day in the life of Mel training video and just show us how you schedule out your day or how you get all these things accomplished with all of this other stuff on your plate? And the funny thing is, I didn't really think I was doing anything massively amazing. I was taking a lot of what my father did and sometimes what he didn't do and made, based my decision, based my day off of that, which turned into really just honoring my time and energy. So figuring out how to create a to-do list that I could shift depending on, how my son was that day, how much time I had. So I was still always doing things every day, but not overwhelming myself. And so I made this quick video and she put it in the new coach boot camp. And all of a sudden our team just exploded. And people who were coming into our team wanted to work with me. So all of a sudden I just adopted this team, and people are just coming and asking to work with me specifically. And about a year later, we were in the top 1% of the company. And that got the attention of others inside of the company that I was with. So I started doing team calls and trainings for them. That got the attention of friends in other network marketing companies. So I quietly was doing team calls and trainings for them. And then fast forward to 2015, I'm in the middle of my divorce, and I have one foot in fitness, which is going nowhere, because my other foot is in business coaching, which is also going nowhere. And I figured if there's any way, if there's a beautiful time to maneuver into a new version of me, it's now. And beautifully through the company I was with, I was able to have a year-long internship under John Maxwell. And for those of you who don't know, John C. Maxwell is like the epitome of all business coach gurus. He's been around for decades. In fact, my father used to read his book, so I grew up learning from John Maxwell. Yeah. And so through this internship, I just really got this beautiful universal ping of, this is it. This is your next step. So I got my certification through him and his international leadership team. I left the network marketing company in 2016, launched my business, quote unquote, coaching business in 2017. And even that has been an evolution ever since, where, originally I was focused on working with women who had online businesses, specifically network marketing companies, and help them own their businesses and really, utilize their time and their profit avenues correctly. To now I work with any inspired entrepreneur who just wants to honor their life and be the architect of their success, and showing them through, a combination of spiritual tools like human design and traditional business development tools, how much information they already have inside of themselves to create what they want, and how they can ensure that that journey is always there without getting overwhelmed and inundated with everything that they think they need to do, or everything they're told they should do in order to, create the success that they really want to create.
And how do you work with clients, Mel? Do you do group coaching, one-on-one? Talk about how you work.
Yeah, so I primarily do one-on-one. Though at the time of recording this podcast, I am launching a small group the next couple of weeks, which is very exciting, which I'm sure will be live by the time this episode comes out. Yeah. But I do primarily do one-on-one. And what that looks like is everyone starts with me by having a human design reading. And for those of you who don't know what human design is, it's a beautiful tool that utilizes astrology, Kabbalah, I Ching, chakras, and quantum physics. And what it shows you, and shows me as well as your guide, is your energetic blueprint and how you are designed to bring what you want into life. And why that information is so important is because it gives you, again, a picture of you. So if you're ever doubting yourself, or if you're having those instances of like, well, this person said I should do this, but this person says I should do this, we now have the information go, okay, so what do you know? How are you designed? Which one is actually in an alignment that helps you be profitable mentally, emotionally, and financially as you create this business? And from there, there's several ways that they can continue that guidance with me, whether it's through Voxer coaching, which is a beautiful walkie-talkie app where they just pick my brain, of course, paid, whenever they need to. Or I also have very intimate containers where we work one-on-one with each other, a certain amount of times a month and for certain periods of time. But it's always focused on me meeting them where they are at and holding space for them, and then utilizing what tools we feel are best for them at that moment, whether it is something spiritual where I could do oracle card readings, or, we go into their human design chart, or it's reaching into my business development bag, which I have been building tools out for the last 13 years of, let's talk about your funnel, let's talk about your offers, let's talk about all those things. And all of it with this overarching focus and lens that this is about you. I'm here to support you and show you the power that you have and how you can create what you want. So then you can step into your business and just do it.
I love it. Awesome. And I want to point out a word that you use that resonates with me, Mel, and that's misfits. So your MEC collective, misfits, entrepreneurs, and change makers.
Yeah.
Something we have in common, my parents never emphasized college either. I shared with you, I have 8 brothers and sisters. I'm the only one in my family who even went to college. It was really interesting. And both entrepreneurs, and I have used that word, misfits, and
Yeah.
also rebel. So
Yeah.
I call my
Disruptor is
parents,
my new
yes,
favorite word.
yes,
Disruptor
yes.
is my word of 2023.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really, really interesting. And to your point, how I was raised with 2 entrepreneurial parents, and those parents that, thought very differently about the world,
Yeah.
and didn't go, didn't finish college, didn't get a job, just it
Yeah.
really is a blessing as I look back and what I've done in my career. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, 100%. And I think the more that we can have those honest conversations about what this journey is, whatever journey that is, whether you are an entrepreneur or, 100% in your corporate life. I would, it's interesting that I feel like sometimes and it's a royal we, try to pit each other against each other between corporate and entrepreneur. Like there's like one is less than the other, or vice versa. And really, I think it's your calling. Everybody has a specific calling. And an entrepreneur to me is anybody that has any sort of business, whether that's a side hustle, whether that's full-time, that they are giving to others for, any kind of compensation, whether that's financial or trade, whatever. You're an entrepreneur. And the same thing, people who love their corporate life. I love that they love their corporate life. So how can they be the best versions of themselves and create what they want inside of that corporate life? So I think it is beautiful to have any and all examples, but especially for those of us who had entrepreneurial examples of what we can, not what we can and cannot do, but what worked for them and what didn't work for us, right? As the children in that experience. And for me personally, how can I make sure that I don't copy and paste that experience for my son as he watches me build my business? So there's always lessons learned when you have, examples like that, no matter where they're from, whether, again, that's corporate or full entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So I want to talk about your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been podcasting, and talk about what you do and who you interview?
Yeah, so the podcast is called More Than Just, and it's a safe common room space where humans can come on and share how they are more than just their main titles, identifiers, or descriptors that follow us or follow them inside of their businesses, their lives, and their communities. And I started it launched in June of 2022, actually launched on my birthday last year. And I was inspired to make it because through my journey as a human, especially since COVID, I have gone through a lot of personal development. And I realized that when you are an entrepreneur, or when you have a title that is kind of your main identifier, you get a little bit lost inside of it. And all of a sudden, all the stories that you're talking about are just wrapped around this one title or descriptor. And not everybody gets to see all the beautiful facets that make you, you. And I'm a huge believer in starting with that human connection first, and then moving out from there of how can we support each other, whether that's personally or professionally or both. And so I wanted to create a space to facilitate that. So it is interview style. There are 2 episodes right now with just me on it, where you can learn a little bit more about me. But I didn't want this about me. I didn't want this to be about my business. I wanted this to be a space where people could share. And so my guests have run such a beautiful spectrum of stories, of of backgrounds, of cultures, of identifiers. And every single episode, I have learned something new and have started, because of that education, have tried to take as many action steps as possible. Because I think that's extremely important when you're sharing such vulnerable stories. One that comes to mind is a story that came forward in the first season, which was with my friend Rodney Perry. And his episode is called More Than Just Well-Spoken. And as a creative man who was Black during 2020, he has always been told that he's been well-spoken. And when 2020 and BLM happened, all of a sudden, the corporate office that he was a part of thrust him into the spotlight because he was Black, he was well-spoken. And so therefore, he could now be the face of his DEI. and just all of this kind of insider information of his experience during this time. And having that experience shared with me was so powerful, shared with our audience was so powerful. And the encouragement every time somebody shares a story like that is, okay, now that you know this, what are the action steps that you're going to take? Because having these conversations are beautiful and are needed and need to do more than just have conversations. And so that's the real projection for MTJ, is to create a collective, create a community where we can have discussions, where we can educate each other, learn from each other with no social and emotional labor involved, and really create a change that we are looking for, because we can't do it alone. We need to know other people's stories. We need to hear their experiences and see where we connect on an emotional level, so we can see how we are not very different. And even though their experience might be slightly different than ours, there's that emotional thread that just shows how connected we are. And with that, how can we move forward and create a better place for us? Because it's getting kind of interesting out there.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. Just when we thought it couldn't
Right.
get any crazier.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, great. Well, I want to talk about some of the things that you're working on. I know you're launching a group program, which is exciting. What are some of the other things that you have coming up in your business better than before?
I have a small group that is launching in May called Get Aligned with Your Design. And it's meant to be a really beautiful, intimate 3-week, I guess almost intensive integration. That's a lot of eyes with your human design chart. So for those who either have had a human design reading and then didn't really know how to apply it, or for those who never had a human design reading and they just want to know how to instantly apply it with having the bits and pieces of information, not being overwhelmed. That's why I decided to create this small group offering, which I'm really excited about. It's very intimate, only 7 people. It's 3 weeks long, and I'll be running those about once a quarter. But honestly, besides that, I'm really just focusing on sharing more about the beauty of human design and the power that people have, as well as continuing to share the stories of my guests on More Than Just. More Than Just is actually completely made possible by sponsors and financial contributions from listeners, kind of like PBS. Mm-hmm. So moving forward with that and finding more amazing people and companies to connect to, so we can continue to have these conversations and expand this community and this collective, so we can really create the change that we desire.
I love it. Have you been enjoying podcasting? It sounds like.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I didn't think, I'm a naturally nosy person anyway, but I really didn't know how much I was going to just love this, as well as how honored I feel every single time a guest feels comfortable sharing what they choose to share. Because each episode, I never come at it with any kind of angle. It's just an intention to hold space, and they have full say on where the conversation goes and boundaries and all of that. And it's just been really beautiful. And I'm so honored of the stories that they have trusted, not only myself, but my audience with. And I'm just really excited to see who continues to come on and the things that we continue to learn and the action steps that we continue to take.
Wonderful. Yeah, I agree. I love it. It's just so much fun. And I'm so glad to see this medium continuing to grow.
Same.
I started podcasting back when I started Hera Hub 12 years ago. So
wow.
I've interviewed thousands of people at this point, and it's just, a lot of folks talked about podcasting initially, and even more recently, like, it's saturated, it's this, it's that. But I think it's such a beautiful medium, and it just grabs people in a different way. And with everything going on with social media and kind of the overwhelm and the just how social media makes us feel, it's a way to really dig in a different way. And so
definitely. And it's definitely a deeper connection than just an Instagrammable snippet or a quick 15-second TikTok. It's really, there's obviously all podcasts have a different premise and a different intention, but for the most part, it is about learning something new and connecting with somebody and feeling that you're seen and you're heard and you're recognized. And I think that's why having the podcasting platform, to your point, is so beautiful, because it is such a great place to have that human connection, from the safety of your bedroom or your car or wherever you're at. But it definitely just expands that conversation in such a beautiful way. So yeah, it's funny because people were asking me in 2020, like, oh, you should do a podcast. I really love listening to your voice messages that you send me. And I really waited until an idea fully came to me, because I didn't want to just maneuver because it was 2020 and COVID. I really wanted to make this something, intentional and beautiful to me, because this is my time and my energy as well. So I think anytime, you see something that's popular and you want to jump on it, whatever that is, I always encourage people to just take a breath and just really sit with it. And what does this look like for you? My favorite question, what do I want? So what do you want this to look like for you? How do you want this to flow? And I don't think anything is ever oversaturated, because there's never another you. Whatever you're bringing to the table, whatever you're bringing to the platform is yours, and nobody else can copy that any which way or form.
Absolutely. I love it. So Mel, if folks want to reach out, get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So if you want to check out more about me, definitely hop to my website. And I'm the most active on social media on my Instagram, which is Mel_McSherry, on LinkedIn as well, Mel McSherry. Each of those, my DMs are open. Feel free to reach out, and happy to chat more at any time with anyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Mel. It's been a true pleasure getting to know you better.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.